Hello and welcome to the newest episode of Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine. I am Lisa Wright. This is my co-host and producer Giles Bidder.
Hello!
Hello Giles, and hello to our latest guest. It is the one and only top comedian, essentially the king of podcasts, is on the podcast. It's Mr. James Acaster. James Acaster needs no introduction, really. He is one half of Off Menu, I would say the best podcast out there. He is award-winning comedian. He is currently filming Ghostbusters, as making him a fully fledged Hollywood actor. He is a man of so many different talents that it's just you don't really need to sum up. He's just a all-round talented, funny fella. Also, fun fact, we recently, as part of James's Temps music project, another thing that he can also add to his bow, gave James a little album launch party at DIY recently. And who showed up to the album launch party? None other than recent off-menu guest Paul Rudd. So basically, the podcast world, the music world, the DIY Acaster Rudd trifecta is a complete little circuit these days. As always, on Before They Knew Better, we asked James to bring in a song, an object, and a photo from his youth and young manhood. His photo is one of my favourites ever. It is truly ludicrous. And as you would expect from James Acaster, he's got some pretty good stories to back it up. Go and give Temp's album Partygate to Purgatory a spin if you haven't already. Go and listen to basically every episode of Off Menu and all of James's comedy specials, because they're all absolutely solid gold, and enjoy our chat with the one and only James Acaster on Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine. I feel like at the moment you've sort of reached a level of busy where, like, have you got some sort of like Bernard's watch scenario going on? Because it feels like you're sort of juggling about 20 projects at once now.
I mean, look, at the minute, it's like in a little period where kind of only have one thing going on, so it's okay. It's like a bit of an in-betweeny, I'm writing an audio sitcom. I finished the film I was doing. The album's been released, getting ready to release the EP, but there's no extra work for me to do there. Yeah.
Okay. The calm before the storm, the gigs. So that's hecklers welcome. So it's inviting people to heckle you, or it's sort of going off some of the classic heckles that you have received in the past?
Neither, really. It's they're just allowed to do what they want. So It's not inviting it. It's kind of, although even when you explain the rules at the start of the show, there are still people who come up to you afterwards and go, well, you're inviting heckling. And like, I'm not, but I'm also not getting annoyed about it. So the whole kind of point of the show is I've got a whole show written of material, but they're allowed to do what they want as an audience, and it's playing with that idea more. So it's less you guys all heckle me and I'll come back at the heckles and let's see. It's not that at all, and it's not here's a bunch of times I've been heckled in the past, because actually those stories can get tired pretty quickly. It's a load of material about stories about me performing and being on stage as a kid, and times that went wrong, and how that's affected my relationship with the audience as an adult. And the main thing that I struggle with the audience is when they heckle, when they're on their phones, when they're talking amongst themselves, and not watching the show. And this is me trying to combat that by saying at the top, that's all allowed now.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it, but it's allowed.
So sort of immersion therapy crossed with like if you say don't press the red button, then everyone wants to press the red button. So if you say you can press the red button, then maybe people don't want to as much.
It's basically just up top. Instead of, you've probably seen a lot of comics at the start of their shows try and like do some house rules and be like, you've had some comics be aggressive with it and go, if you're thinking of heckling, just shut the fuck up or fucking go home. No one wants to hear you. And then the audience applaud to let the hecklers know that that's the case and they agree with it. Or there's just like a formal thing before a show sometimes on the screen that says, please don't shout out, or an announcement over the speakers saying, please don't do this, please don't be on your phones, and And I've just found none of that has ever worked for me at all. I think for whatever reason, probably the fact that I'm not a very authoritative figure. I'm not like the people don't look at me and go, we have to do what we're told by this guy. So I've just always had it every tour, no matter what I'm talking about. And I think the last tour, it being like, because before the last tour, it was all shows that were whimsical shows, and there might be personal reveals at the end of them, but they were mainly, me pretending to be on jury service or whatever. But then when you do a show like my last one, I did a show that was very personal about my mental health, and there's a lot of very personal things in there. And when you've got people turning up to that, and not only heckling during that show, but heckling after personal revelations that you've just shared with them, and they're making fun of those things, or they're joking, or they're talking over those things, or they're on their phones during those things, you just kind of go, I'm not sure I can ignore this problem any longer. I either have to, stop doing this or figure out a way of combating it. So this is just like an attempt. It's just an attempt at sorting that out. But.
Yeah, owning it.
Yeah, we'll see.
And you said about film that you just wrapped up, which is obviously, I would imagine you are NDA'd up to the eyeballs on talking about the old ghost busting. But was it fun? Did you like being a Hollywood man now?
It was amazing. It was all in Winnersh, so not very Hollywood, but it was great. Obviously the whole thing's new to me, so every day was something to look forward to, whether it's working with a certain actor or, being on a certain set with iconic things around you that you've watched as a kid. And also just acting, just kind of something that I've wanted to do for a while. I've been auditioning for things for a long time.
Famously played the mouse in...
Famously played John the Mouse, which I didn't have to audition for. That was more other people's misfortune and then me pouncing on it. So I couldn't make that a career.
Who did you get on most with while shooting? Did you have any meaningful conversations, meaningful interactions? Talking about, music or film or...
Oh yeah, Bill Murray was at Mighty Hoopla, which is not the festival that I would have imagined Bill Murray to be going to. Did you chat about music with him?
I didn't. I did talk about music with him actually because he got there a bit later than other people, and I think he arrived around the time of the halfway meal that they had for everybody, for the cast and crew, and I wasn't there because I was doing my album launch. And which you guys hosted.
Sorry, we took you away from...
No, well, I wanted to do that. But so I first met him probably later that week, and he was like, how come you weren't at that meal? And I said, I had a event that I had to go to. And Ernie Hudson, who's one of the sweetest guys ever, just went, not just any event, tell him what the event was. And it encouraged me to, tell him that it was an album launch. And so I did. And he was quite interested in that, talked about.
So Temps, Partygate of Purgatory. Yeah, we did the party for you. I thought that was really fun, actually. Do you still own the suit? Oh, yeah, no, you were wearing the suit at the party.
Someone else was wearing the suit, and everyone thought it was me and was calling him James. Poor guy. It's a guy from the publishing company, I think.
Whoever got the short end of the straw and had to be in that sweltering hot thing for a while. Yeah. That's the intern's job, I think. Yeah.
It was floated that it would be me, and then I remembered how boiling it is. I was like, do you know what? I'd quite like to enjoy my album launch.
Yes.
And so if we either don't do it or someone else does it. Yeah.
Well, actually, a very good DJ, you and Nish were tearing up the decks.
Being behind there together was really fun.
Was that the first time you DJ'd?
Well, I'm always careful to call it DJing because obviously there are proper DJs out there who do stuff properly, who would think a guy playing music off of his iTunes is not DJing. But it's not the first time I've done that. So I've done that quite a few times now, and I really enjoy it in the right environment. And then in other environments, I've had extremely stressful times of people making requests when I've got nothing. I haven't got. I've done some gigs, some DJing for friends, at friends' events, friends' weddings or something, and I'll do it for free and just DJ it. And what I've found, I guess, and I don't know why, is if it's a performer's wedding, if it's a comedian or a musician or whoever, you tend just to be left alone by the people who are there, and you get to just play your songs and everyone dances. And I think I actually played a more obscure playlist at the Temps album launch than I would usually. Usually I'd just be playing Torn by Natalie Imbruglia and, Africa by Toto and all those kind of songs. So I'm very much just playing crowd pleasers. I'm not disappearing up my own arse at weddings and going like, I'm going to play whatever, this obscure of Montreal track. But you still get people at weddings where the bride and groom are not performers, and I don't know why that is. But when I've done that, that's when people come up to me and go, can you play this? And unfortunately, both times I've done that have been times where there's no Wi-Fi in the venue, and I've been told ahead of time, like, here's our playlist, bride and groom's playlist of what we want.
I feel like that's more responsibility though, because when you're DJing at your own event, then you can sort of do what you want. Whereas if you're DJing someone's wedding, you could like ruin their wedding if you play like shit music. Yeah. So it feels actually quite responsible.
Also, you can ruin their wedding if you end up in a blazing row with one of the wedding guests, which was my main concern. Because I'm just playing Holla Back Girl or whatever. Everyone's dancing. It's fine. But you get one person come up to you. So I've had to really learn the hard way. I'm sure you two have both DJ'd proper at events, and you already know this. But it took me a long time to learn that if someone requests a song, you just say yes. Like, you just go, yeah, brilliant. And then they go away. And 9 times out of 10, you'll never see them again, even if you don't play their song. Mm-hmm. 1 time out of 10, they will come back and go, are you going to play that? And then you just say yes again.
Yes, for sure.
And then they go away, and that's probably the end of it.
Yeah.
It's probably very, very rare that they would repeatedly come back and it gets, if you say yes. But I didn't know that. So like the first time I was DJing at something and I was just playing, I had my playlist, I had the bride and groom's playlist, I was going back and forth between the two. The dance floor was full. And people didn't know I was having these issues. By the end of the night, everyone was like, the dance floor was full all night. I've not been at a wedding like that before. Well done. And I was like, I was like trying not to get my head kicked in because 10 songs in or whatever, a drunk guy just walks right up to me, just face to face, and is like, can you play Bryan Adams? And I was like, oh, mate, I'd love to play Bryan Adams, but there's no Wi-Fi in this venue. And all I've got is these 2 playlists. So I can only play what's on here. And Bryan Adams is on here, I'm sorry. And he went, I remember it really clearly. He went, it's a yes or no question. I went, oh, okay, well, no. And he went, why? And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. But he's hammered. And so I explained it again. And he goes, I remember he went, oh, so I'm a cunt, am I? Because I asked you for a song. And you're like, oh, fuck. No. And you're like, well, no, but also I think you might be. So that's...
Is that a yes or no answer?
I was like, no, and all this. And then he gets dragged away. But then you see him go over to his mates, tells them this guy is refusing to play songs, which is made worse maybe when you're the only person at the wedding who's on the telly.
Right. Okay.
Because I think then it's like
just having some sort of superiority.
He thinks he's fucking great. He's coming in, he's playing these songs, and he's refusing to do requests. So then you get one of their mates come over and go and request the same thing, and you explain to them, and then they're usually more sober, but more of an asshole. So they go like, yeah, I'm just trying to understand why though, because this is a wedding. And it's not about you, is it? And you're going, yeah, it's totally not about me. If you look at the screen, so I've got these are what the bride and groom have chosen, and I'm playing all of those. And this is what just I prepared, and that's all I can play. I'm sorry, I'm doing it for free. I'm not trying to be a dick. And they're like, right, so you won't play any songs that anyone requests, even though it's a wedding and everyone's trying to have fun. And it escalates. And I mean, that night was awful. And then I remember that the next one I had where it was like, the bride and groom had been at that one, and they'd known about the hassle I'd had. So they were like, don't worry, we're going to send out an email ahead of time telling everyone, put your requests in beforehand, and James will have them on a playlist.
Yeah.
Because it was the same situation with the Wi-Fi list. So some people just sent their requests in. I got sent them. I put them on a playlist. Got bride and groom stuff, the wedding guest stuff.
A lot of Bryan Adams, just in case.
Bryan Adams, absolutely to the rafters. And then, like, I think during the groom's speech, he was thanking all the people, and he said, thanks to James, he's going to be DJing later. James will not be taking requests, everyone. We can't be clear enough about that. And then you're like, oh my God. Well, now I look like I've asked him to say that, or I've said no requests. You know, give them the context.
On the DJ.
Say it as the groom. Just say this venue doesn't have Wi-Fi, so he's having to go off. But he doesn't. He just says James doesn't take a request. So like one song in, literally, this person had been raring to do it. One song in, this person comes up to me and is like, "Yeah, I know you don't want to take requests from people, but me and my friends really like this song. So we would just like you to play that song. Is that okay at the wedding?" Like that to me, and I had to be like, "Yes, I'll play that song." and they went away, and then I was like, I need to go home as soon as possible. I decided to go home because there was a point where, for whatever reason, the speaker system went down and it just stopped, and everyone started booing me.
No.
And I was like, and then someone who had been on the stag do, who was a dickhead, turned up and like put me in a headlock, like that, and I was like, I need to fucking go home. I need to go home so bad. What talking about with the Hector's tours? Like, I seem to attract it, and I don't know why.
We have a wonderful picture of you, a cutout from a local paper.
Yes. Is it clear which one's me?
Yeah.
Well, we had to zoom in a little bit.
For people that haven't seen, the picture should be on the thing, but you were dressed as Carmen Miranda. I mean, I guess the first question is what makes, I'm going to guess, maybe 12-year-old boy from Kettering choose to dress as a dead singer from the 50s?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not choosing in a way. It was, so it was the gang show, which people who were in the Scouts and the Cubs and whatever, and Girl Guides will know what the gang show is, but like anyone else, it's going to be a confusing thing to bring up. But like, so it's a variety show put on by the Scouts and the Guides.
Yeah.
I hope it's still going. Don't know if it is. I think the Kettering one isn't anymore. But it was very much my route into performing and like being able to perform. I wanted to perform and be on stage and do things creatively since I can remember, but in Kettering there weren't many opportunities to do that, and I was in the Cubs anyway. I remember going to see the gang show for the first time at the McKinley Theatre, which has since been bulldozed and now there's houses there, but went to see it there and thought it was the coolest thing ever because there were comedy sketches in it, and there'd be like a song and dance number, like a whole kind of section of like whatever show tunes, or another section of songs that are all about the summer or something.
Nice.
And then sketches and dance. There will obviously like be a dance number at some point. And I obviously loved the comedy sketches and wanted to do the comedy sketches, and auditioned. You had to audition, which I think was more of a formality. I can't remember anyone getting a rejection letter from the Kettering Gang Show, but auditioned for it, got in. I actually auditioned for, there was always one kind of sketch or whatever that was just the Cubs and everything else was Scouts and Guides. So I auditioned I was in the Cubs for the Cubs one because I was just about to leave the Cubs. I unexpectedly got the whole show, and I was like, I can't believe this is the coolest thing. But I got to be in the Cubs sketch as well. But then I wasn't in any of the comedy sketches. I was just in the singing and dancing at that point. And I think, I don't know, the photo that I've sent you, I think that was before I got to be in any of the sketches. I started being in the sketches when I was, I don't know.
Arguably, I would say like a sort of skit seems like a warm-up to doing a full Carmen Miranda fruit bowl routine. That feels like it should be the sort of, you know, when you get cast as like Mary in the Nativity, like she's the star, surely.
I've got no memory of being Carmen Miranda, and I think that when the Evening Telegraph, when the Kettering Telegraph came in to do that piece, they just needed someone to put that fruit on their head for the photo. Right. I think that's what happened. I was like, yeah, obviously I'll do that, because whatever the most attention-seeking thing is, yeah, I'll do that and put that on my head.
Either that, or is it some sort of like dark repressed thought that you have blocked down into the gutters of your performance memory? What do you remember actually doing in the show then?
Well, there's a load of... So I did the show many years in a row until I was 15. Too old in some people's eyes to still be in the Scouts. So I probably started doing it when I was 10 or 11. So every year, you know, until I was 15. In 1999, we did the Royal Albert Hall gang show, which was like a whole bunch of different
big time
gang shows from around the country. Yeah, the big time. It felt like such a big deal. Like it was a big deal, obviously. You know, you're a teenager and you're doing the Royal Albert Hall. That is huge. And I thought, and it was like, you know, a life-changing thing of like, you know, really wanting to continue to do that my whole life. And a really great thing that the people who put that on did. However, we did get given the VHS of it afterwards, and for a stand-up show I was doing, I revisited it, and it was bad, really bad. I mean, not very. I remember it being so much work, but
did you have lines?
Not in the Royal Albert Hall, when I was just in the chorus and just doing I had lines in the Kettering Gang show. I remember when I was 13, I started being in the sketches, so I probably had a good old 3 years of being in the sketches. And
so our version of SNL, your
exactly,
version.
Footlights, but for Kettering.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. I guess it is. I mean, it is kind of as close as to Footlights as Kettering can get. You know, we're not a posh city who has loads of money, so like you do have to do these things instead. And the people who did them, you know, Alan Mason, who directed that gang show every year, I actually, in all seriousness, I owe quite a lot to, because, you know, having someone encourage you to get up and do that stuff is awesome. I remember doing a sketch where we were at the seaside and I was the mum. So I got to do really high-pitched voices and play with my fake bosoms for the whole thing.
Nice.
Adjusting them constantly, which actually wasn't for comic effect. I genuinely was uncomfortable, but it got a real big laugh from the crowd. You know, would I do that now? Probably not. But like, I was
times have changed.
13, being directed by Alan Mason. Don't want to get him cancelled. I'm not going to. Anyway,
were you writing jokes? Were you writing bits either in your head or on paper?
No. You were just given the sketches to do, so it was all just performance. And I was putting those sketches with my mates, so it was always just me and my friends who I was joking around with. We had a camcorder, and we'd always be like doing like stupid, you know, going around Kettering or the nearby villages, filming ourselves doing stupid stuff anyway, fake jackass stunts and whatever.
Yeah.
So like, you know, those were the people that I was in these sketches with. So
that sounds fun. That's a good thing to do, you know, as a teenager when you can't go to the pubs anyway, and if there's not many gigs happening in your town, right? Make your own fun. Yeah,
it was great. And like, you know, they were really, I could look back and laugh at it, and we would definitely, especially because there was a camcorder, you look back at the actual footage sometimes, which I think I did once and once only as an adult, and you go, oh, we were insufferable. Like, how did anyone put up with us? It was the most annoying little, but, you know, obviously at the time it was awesome.
Can you remember the first time that you kind of did a performance where you made people laugh and thinking like, this is quite an addictive feeling?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, it was my, so at the church that we went to when I was a little kid, they had sketches as well, like comedy sketches. And it was one of those like laid back, non-denominational churches. And I did a sketch where I spoke about this on a podcast before, and my dad's like, I don't remember that. So my parents always like that. My parents will listen to this. My mum listens to every podcast that I do, and often when it's a story of my childhood, the rule generally is if they don't remember it, then it didn't happen. And I'm
right, okay.
But Mum, if you listen, this absolutely happened. So it was a comedy sketch. It was me and my dad. And my dad played God, and I don't know who did the casting. It wasn't me. So maybe it was my dad's idea to play God. I think it was. Right. And I was going to be, I guess,
Jesus, presumably
a human man, just a human being, and it was God saying, like, "Will you give me this part of your life, whatever it was? I don't know, your work life. Yes, I'll give that to God. Will you give me your, family life? Yes, give that part of my life to you. Your leisure time." And I'll go. And any time the answer was no, I had to just say, no, I won't give you that. But I just decided to perform it. I'd swiftly turn my head away from him and go, no, like that. And it would get a laugh every time I did it. I didn't understand what the sketch was really about. I did that. And certainly, again, another kind of sketch that I wouldn't perform now or agree with the message of. But, I got a laugh every time I did that no thing.
Yeah. Also, really sassy writing from your dad there on script duties.
Yeah, well, I think it was meant to just be no, and I just in the moment performed it like that.
Yeah.
Thinking that, I don't think I was trying to be funny. Maybe I was, because I really loved the comedy sketches that were funny. Like I said, I don't really remember a time when I didn't want to get on stage and perform. I remember after that sketch circulating around the congregation afterwards, and going up to adults and being like, I saw you enjoying that sketch that me and my dad did earlier, and like bringing it up, really,
Want to give me a bit more praise about that old thing that you did?
A very nice, well-meaning Christian woman, me going, I saw you laughing at the sketch, and she was like, oh, no, I wasn't laughing at you, thinking that she'd offended me by laughing at me as a kid, trying to clear up the confusion, but not really knowing how to. No, I want laughter from my art, and I want you to praise me more and how funny it was. I'm not saying I didn't like the laughter, but she kept on being like, James, I don't want you to think I was laughing at you. But yeah, I mean, I definitely just always wanted to do that sort of stuff. And I'm not trying to promote this stand-up show, but it kind of does come back to it does kind of come back to that of like, I am trying to figure out why that is. Why it is that I've wanted to do that forever, and how healthy it is or isn't.
Yeah.
So you're a music fan, you know, we know that, and we've got a big sense of your taste over the last few years with Perfect Sounds. And when did bands specifically, what was the first? Did you ever see? Was it a local band that sparked that delight? What do you remember the first connection you had outside of your parents' record collection?
I mean, again, it was probably the band in church, to be honest, which is like, but because that's the thing. If you get taken to church every Sunday from when you're born, then you're going to a gig every week, essentially, especially if you're at the kind of church I was at, where it was a rock band set up doing like,
Great.
quite, it wasn't hymns. It was all these, I don't know what kind of songs they would be called really, but
like sort of Christian rock songs.
Crazy song. Yeah, but you probably, I actually can't, but you might get a song like, that Shine Jesus Shine song or something like that, but it's just played by this rock band and it just feels quite upbeat. So it's not like, it's not like you're playing any kind of obscure, Christian rock tunes, but it's a rock band playing these songs, and the drummer was a guy called Sid Harris, who I remember very well. He had really long dreadlocks and was like, and I was like, I want to be like him. Pretty early on as a kid, I was like, I really liked the music every week. I wanted to play the drums because he looked like he's having a good time playing the drums. And also I found drums slightly funny, and I don't know why. I thought they were a comical instrument. I was drawn to that as well because I just always liked things being funny and comedy, and didn't understand why anyone would like any other genre of entertainment drama or anything. But yeah, it was kind of that. And then we were at a family barbecue once, probably again for someone at the church. That was all my social circle until I could decide for myself. And I remember them playing some compilation album called something like Greatest Album in the World Ever, Volume 6 or something. And it was all these songs that I just thought every song was incredible. Like Down Under and Centerfold and Rocking All Over the World. And I thought they were all incredible and funny. And I actually stand by the fact that those songs are funny, to be fair. The concept of someone rocking all over the world is hilarious. And, Down Under is this weird song about just people living in Australia. And,
I think, like, Beatles and Kinks, a lot of those songs are funny.
Yeah, they've got a lot of funny lyrics, haven't they? I think, like, were you actively seeking out the funny songs when you were younger then, or was that
Not
just
really.
what sort of happened into your orbit?
I mean, maybe part of it as well was just not being able to articulate how I felt about things, not having the words. So I kind of say funny for just a song that made me feel good and I liked it, like a song like Teenage Kicks. Really liked that as a kid, and would probably describe that as funny, but it's not really funny.
Yeah.
But I would just have this connect. It would spark, because music does this thing to you a lot of the time where you can't really explain the feeling or whatever it is that it sets off. It's quite intangible, and like, so I think as a kid, I would start off with, these songs are pretty funny. Hi Ho Silver Lining's a funny song. Someone's got flies in their pea soup and bad luck, mate. But then, like, I would just use that word for pretty much every song that I liked,
Yeah.
None of the church songs were my favourite songs, although my parents have a story that I can't remember, but I still believe you, Mum and Dad, that this happened. Where apparently I had a kid as a friend at school who was a Buddhist, and he came round to my house, and we had a ukulele in our house that I'd been given as a birthday present or Christmas present. And I said to him, "Do you want to hear a song?" And he said, "Yeah." And I sang one of the songs from church while just like strumming the ukuleles. And then he was like, "Oh, I'll sing a song for you," and did like a chant thing for me. And that we were just going back and forth, trading those very innocently while everyone just watched us, neither of us embarrassed, and both of us just accepted each other.
That's beautiful. It's sort of probably, like the UN in your own front room.
It was.
Well, it's never too late to bring a little bit of Christian rock back into the temps.
Sure.
Over.
I'm trying to think if any of them are Christians. I don't know.
What's wrong and really, really, really could happen? Yes, it really, really, really could happen.
So the song that you picked today, when we asked you to bring one that reminds you of your youth, that was The Universal by Blur. What's your connection to that?
That's because I was trying to go for like everything around a similar time. So that was the Gang Show as well. That was the first time I was in the Gang Show, my first night of it, and my parents knew it meant a lot to me. And I got home and they'd bought me that on single and left it on my bed as like a well done for your first night of like actually doing this and being on stage. And it was like a song I was talking a lot about anyway. I talked a lot about how much I loved that song. It was the whole Blur versus Oasis thing around that time, probably the height of it. Those two albums. I chose Blur in the Park Life, not in the Park, in the Country House roll with it. I think. Yeah. Battle.
Both sort of their worst songs, but fine.
Yeah, weird, isn't it? It's weird.
Yeah.
But I chose Country House anyway because it was funnier, and it is funnier.
Yeah.
Roll with it. I chose that. And then wanted the follow-up single, Universal, which I think is still one of their best songs. I think it's like stood the test of time, I think. Really wanted that, so they bought it for me as like well done for tonight. And I think it's that thing of just meant a lot that. Well, for one, doing that show really, really meant a lot to me at that age, and getting in and being able to do it. Was really important to me. So having your parents let you know that they understand that and that it means a lot to you as well is really nice. So that song still reminds me of that and that kind of like support from my mum and dad.
Although I do feel like the bloody British Gas advert has ruined it minorly for me, because now it does just make me think I need to check my meter every time I listen to it. But no, it's good. Were you like a big Brit, like, I guess how old were you? You would have been like, what, sort of 10-ish around the Britpop time? Did that whole sort of scene sink into your consciousness a lot?
Yeah, it did. Although I think I got it wrong. Like, looking back at it, I definitely... So, like, I chose Blur for those two singles, but broadly I chose Oasis, and I got the Oasis albums, which I think is just, I'm afraid, categorically the wrong choice. Like, I think Blur won the battle and the war on that one. I think it was their discography. So just like, you know, just the two bands as they were, Blur just wins on discography and like best albums and the most amount of best, you know, of good albums that they put out. You know, Oasis put out 2 good albums. Yeah. And Blur put out, every album they put out was good.
And they're still doing
and
it.
Different. And and also, let's face it, the projects since Blur have completely, you know, stomped Oasis into a fine paste. So, like, I don't really think, you know, you can. It's a laughable argument whenever anyone says Oasis are the better band, I'm afraid, and I don't know why it's a debate. It shouldn't be.
He's got cooler and cooler, Damon Albarn, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's aging very, very well. I think he's the only man to ever headline Glastonbury 2 years in a row. Fun fact.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty good, isn't it?
2 different projects.
Gorillaz and Blur, yeah.
Very cool.
Quality.
Pretty good. Do you think, though, because I think like the Oasis thing when you're young, especially if you're maybe like a young man, like the sort of swagger of like Liam, like, do you think that was maybe what turned your head?
I think it was probably, just the people at school. I think it was just my classmates just saying, you know, it's Oasis.
Like this.
We've made our mind up.
Yeah.
Oasis are the better one. I was like, okay, well then that's the way I'm going. Even though before I conferred with my classmates, I was like, I've been Blur a bit. But like, I didn't have the courage to say that in class and go, wrong. And I think that's because I was like, actually, you know, the whole thing of like, going back to the Christian thing, like, I'm not religious anymore, but when I was a kid and I was raised in that way, I loved going to church so much before I went to school, before I started school. And then I started school and discovered that I was different for doing that. And that was suddenly that I had this innocence that some of the other kids, even like with like stuff like swearing or whatever, and like, you know, I wasn't doing that. They thought going to church was stupid and all this. I was like, oh no, I've got to keep that a secret. I can't talk about that. I want to, and suddenly this very urgent need to fit in all of a sudden. So definitely, I would never go, no, Blur are better than Oasis. You lot are wrong. You know, I just be like, yeah. Oasis, okay. I'm in with you guys. And it wasn't until I was about 13 when I started being like, nah, I like Nirvana, and I think that all of the bands that everyone else in my school likes are stupid, and I'm going to stop listening to you know, whatever's in the charts.
What's your first Nirvana memory?
Reading Kerrang! Top 100 albums of all time, seeing Nevermind at the top of it, and saying, I'm thinking, okay, I should actually know. My first Nirvana memory is seeing them on the top 100 albums of all time on Channel 4 or whatever. There was, you know, it was a big Talking Heads, as in the format, not the band. Channel 4 doing like Talking Heads top 100 list shows. That was a big thing for a while, and I loved them. I especially loved the music ones. And Nirvana were on one of those lists, albums or singles or something. And they played a clip of them playing Smells Like Teen Spirit live. And I turned to my dad and said, this isn't music. This is horrible. And he was like, yeah, that's fair enough. And because he didn't like Nirvana at that point. He does now, because I think I might have got him into Nirvana. But anyway, and then a year later, within a year, they were my favourite band. But like, it was like, there was just something, I don't know what, something just flipped and switched, and suddenly that music was really melodic and harmonious to me and sounded beautiful. And
it happened to coincide with puberty by any chance.
Yeah, who knows why?
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, and then bought Nevermind on cassette and was listening to it all the time. And just still one of my favourite albums.
And hey, you mentioned cassettes. This is your third final
It's
item.
a lovely old, and not even a CD Walkman, like an old school tape Walkman back in the day. It was just like a birthday present or something like that. I can remember first getting this treasured item.
When we first got it, I mean, I went through a few of them because, I was listening to it all the time. And so often they would break and then I'd have to get a new one.
Dirty things, are they?
Yeah, so get a new one for birthday or Christmas. And it would have to be a birthday or Christmas present. We weren't getting that stuff just, any old day of the week. So it would have been a birthday or Christmas present. But yeah, I mean, I'd really love we'd get cassette tapes of albums that we liked, but also make mixtapes as well and listen to those. And so it was just like a pretty constant, love affair with cassettes. And
Did you used to do that thing where you put sellotape over the holes and then you can re-record over them?
No, I didn't know about this stuff.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you were a wily little thrifty child, then you could put. I think you just you have to cover up the little holes on the bottom, and then it's a blank cassette all over again.
That's one of my favourite things to do, but before a school trip, because you could. I might be lying, but I think cassettes were a bit longer. Or I think you could fit quite a lot in on them.
Yeah.
So you could put full albums on there, and then the most fun part was doing the artwork and writing down all the track list, getting your name on it. Were you into that sort of stuff, James?
Loved it, which is with this Temps album, it's just been everything I've ever wanted to do. I finally got to do it because I was doing that all the time with cassette tapes, and it'd be my chance to make it like it was my own thing that I was I was going to release it into the it'd be full color it in, cartoons, all the track list in, all of that, give it some stupid name. And then as the years went on and forming bands with friends and designing the artwork for what would be your album, the track list was the order it would all be in, blah, blah, blah. It's very nice at 38 to finally put that out. And on that night, on that launch night, actually hold the vinyl in my hand for the first time and go, oh, it's here. It's an official thing that's in the shop and people can buy it. And I've drawn the artwork and that's all done by hand by me and it's all
nice.
Properly there. So that was definitely something I just liked from the start, and always imagining if it was a real thing that existed in the world and not just my own little cassette tape that I coloured in.
Did you used to make mixtapes for people?
Yeah, too much, for too long. And if anything, that's probably quite a good thing about the digital revolution and just streaming taking over. There's a myriad of bad things and negative things for the music industry, but for my friends and new people that I meet, it has been an absolute blessing because it means that they don't all get given a tape they'll never listen to when I meet them or get to know them, or when I fall in love with them, they get a new one every week.
Oh yeah, did you do some romance tapes?
Well, they weren't ever. I never did it that it was a theme or the lyrics were about how I felt, but I would make them. If I'd started a new relationship or fancied someone, they'd be getting a tape. But confusingly, so would anyone that I didn't fancy or just knew. So it's no one really would be able to figure out if I liked them or not because I'd also given everyone else
mysterious James.
in the office or whatever, a cassette tape. But one thing that I did do, which actually this comes back to the DJing as well, the lessons that I've learned through DJing, is the tape would just be songs that I like. So it would just be about me, which so it wouldn't be, this person, I've got to know them and I'm interested in them and I know what music they like. I think they would like this because nowadays it's taken me a very long time, late 30s now. So nowadays I will only recommend stuff to people because I know what music they like. I've just heard something that I think they would like, and so I say, you should check out this album. But for years, it was just, I like this, everyone should listen to this. I've made you a compilation tape. This is all of my favourite songs. And not seeing that maybe that should just be listened to by me. Actually, maybe I would enjoy listening to this compilation of my favourite songs.
Made myself a mixtape. Yeah, I guess if you make yourself a mixtape, that's just doesn't have quite the same sort of level of charm to it. If you're just gifting yourself lovely mixes,
No.
Is there any one of those where you kind of gave like a potential love interest something wildly mad that you had decided you loved and was maybe not an appropriate thing to try and woo a lady with?
Ooh, I mean, I think that probably whatever mixtape I made someone would just be like just everything that I liked, including, it's just stuff that they would hate. Just because I think I would have it in my head as a, late teens, early 20s, probably even mid 20s,
early 30s.
Yeah. No, luckily that streaming had taken over by then. They'd taken that out of my hands. Oh, thank God. I would have still been doing it probably. But I definitely had this thing of I just want to show them this is me. This is who I am, and if they don't like it, that means probably wasn't meant to be. And if they don't accept,
I'm a little bit crazy,
then it's completely not the way to go about things, and not it absolutely doesn't make any sense. Really emo, almost incel-y way of going about it, but you put on, I put on there's a band called Sixth who I loved.
Yeah.
Their debut album. Still one of my favourite albums, and I would always put on a song by them for people who listen to exclusively folk music or something. Yeah, I'd be like, and here's Skies of Millennium Night by Sixth. They're like, well, of course they're not going to like that. And listen, it doesn't matter if they're going to listen to it and go, well, this is who he is, so I've got to embrace this. No, you fucking haven't. You've got to embrace that. You just be like, I don't want to hear Sixth played around the house. That's fine.
That was James Acaster on the latest episode of Before They Knew Better with DIY Magazine. Thank you, James. Everyone, go listen to Temps. Go listen to Off Menu. Go listen to all of James's many and various wonderful bits of material. Go give the new issue a read. Go give DIY Magazine a subscribe if you fancy getting the print edition through your letterbox. And if you're in the mood for subscribing to stuff, why not give this podcast to subscribe to? You can give it a like, a subscribe, and we'll be right in your ears every Tuesday morning. We have got a handful more episodes of this first series of Before They Knew Better still to come. We've had so many great guests already, from Killer Mike to Mae Muller to Bastille to MXM Tune and loads more, and there's still more to come. So give them all a listen, like, subscribe, all of that, and we'll see you next week.